Welcome to the It Just Works podcast. I'm your co-host Ryan.
And I'm your co-host, Brandon.
This is the podcast where we just talk about whatever comes up to mind. If you guys know, the It Just Works meme is from Bethesda because Todd Howard likes to lie to you, but yet their games are still good. Today's topic is about Pokemon, and we're going to start off with talking about what it means to us as a whole. For me personally, Pokemon has been there since the beginning. It was the very first game I ever bought with my own birthday money. And it's just been extraordinary to me. Buying Pokemon Red and my green Game Boy Color back in the day was incredible. I remember at the end of the game, I released my Charizard, my favorite Pokemon of all time. So Pokemon has been great, but it's also hurt my soul in so many ways. What about you, Brandon?
That's honestly, I'm gonna say the same thing. It's been with me since '99. I remember Christmas getting blue version, my sister getting red version, and that was the first game that I played that wasn't on a demo disc for the PlayStation, first of all. So it's a game I completed and struggled through, and even playing it now as an adult on the virtual console, I'm surprised that my small dumbass could even navigate that game, because I could barely do it as an adult. But yeah, man, it's made a lot of memories in all sorts of media. Opening my first sets of Pokemon cards, which was such a thrill that I'm still chased to this day. You know, waking up Saturday mornings and watching Saturday morning cartoons. People say Saturday morning cartoons, excuse me. That is my definition of so, which is Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc. But it's always been Pokemon. It's all those dumb mistakes that we made as kids. For example, Ryan, you released your Charizard.
It hurts so
I've
much.
deleted my blue save after having a couple level 100s, but you know what? We make mistakes, and it happens.
It just works. And, you're going to hear that a lot. What's funny is, like, you made a very good point that it's like, how did you beat this game as a kid? Because I look back at it now, and I don't know how I was able to complete that game instead of so many other games. Like, Pokemon is not hard, but at 5 years old, how did I beat that? I definitely know I wasn't smart because I released my Charizard, and that hurts still.
A lot of trial and error and blindly going through Rock Tunnel. Was it Rock Tunnel?
Yes, Rock Tunnel going through. Oh man, Rock Tunnel was the scariest thing. I seriously think it took me a couple days to do.
Oh, same. That was a huge wall for me as well. And I tell my buddies, oh yeah, got through Rock Tunnel, and it was dark as shit. And they're like, you didn't get Flash? I'm like, what the hell's Flash?
You're like, what is this HM5 Flash? Oh, what is this you speak of?
It
Because
doesn't
I'm
doesn't
uh
do damage? Oh, I don't want
yeah,
it on my team then. Fuck that.
yeah. Unless it's got a fire attack and my Charmeleon can have 4 fire moves, I don't want it because I was that trainer, dude. I didn't know about stab. I didn't know about anything. I was like, oh yeah, Ember, flamethrower, fire blast. Ooh, fire spin.
You have all four levels. All
Yeah.
all four levels of the Inferno that is Charizard.
Yes. It
And you
is
just
horrible.
barrel through any sort of type disadvantage you may have just with sheer will. And I think that's what honestly got us through that game is just sheer will and determination to be the very best. And I did that. You know, it could be done.
I will never forget. It was raining. It was shortly after the games came out. I was playing it on. Actually, I think it was like a year after the game came out. But I went to a local Sears with my family, and I got my very first Pokemon plush toy. I actually still have it today. It's one of the Charizards, where he looks really goofy and terrible. But I remember like driving home in the rain, and for anyone that remembers, Game Boy Colors didn't have any backlights. They didn't even have the attachment yet. It hadn't been released. So I was playing my Pokemon Red in the rain, and it was a new save, and I'm pretty sure I had a Charmeleon before Misty. I'm pretty much known to do that, but that was like the first time it ever happened, and I look back at it till this day and like, Charmeleon's my boy, and I always made sure that like he was almost a Charizard by the time I got to Misty. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. Like in the anime, Ash beat Brock with what Metapod, and
He
I don't
activated the
remember.
fire sprinklers and shocked the hell out of
Yes,
Lennox.
Yeah, because
with
that makes
Pikachu.
sense.
I mean,
So
in a sense, it does, but you want to try and pull that shit off in the game, and you just can't.
yeah, I
It's a bummer,
yeah, it is a bummer.
and that goes back to my first disappointment as a child.
Ouch. Well, don't worry, there's a lot more to come.
Oh God in heaven. Yeah, man,
Yes.
I understand what you mean when you say those memories that tie to the weather, the and it goes back to all of us having a similar childhood. There was no light attachment or backlit screens on the Game Boy Color and the first Game Boy Advance to come out, and everyone can identify with using street lights to light the way on your journey in the game, just so you can get a couple steps farther every time you pass a street light. It's a shared experience that we all had, and I think that's you know what really ingrains Pokemon into our childhood specifically, but also the fact that it's still going. It may not be as the way it's going is how everyone would like it, but there are plenty of generations that came after ours. For instance, younger people who were playing the new games and they're just getting the same kick out of it that we got as kids. And I think just Pokemon is gonna be timeless. It's gonna be right up there with it's gonna be a classic, and it'll always be changing. Hopefully, I really do hope they improve a lot of things. I hope Gen 8 with a slight mishap, which we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But yeah, Pokemon, it
I think we should get into that now. It looks like you
okay.
need to get something off your chest about Sword and Shield, Brandon. What is it?
Okay.
Go for it, dude. Let it out. Because I personally think the games are great. My only personal issue with the game is the post game. Isle of Armor should have been the post game, and then we should have had a different, or Crown Tundra should have been the first expansion, and then something else. But other than that, I think the game is extremely solid. For the first time ever, you get to actually feel like you're battling in a gym, like a full-on stadium with an audience. That's never been done like that before. And then personally, I think Gigantamax trumps Mega Evolution all day.
Okay. Good thing we got a lot of time left in this podcast. Here I go. You made some excellent points. Uh, you know, I do agree. The game was lacking in vanilla. There wasn't much to do in post game, which is a huge bummer because you have post games like, well, I can't. Red and Blue had no post games whatsoever, but Gold and Silver, you had a whole nother region to go and do. Third gen, you had the Battle Frontier. Fourth gen, you had the Battle Frontier again, and various other things in Heart Gold Soul Silver to do. And Gen 5 also, it stands out to me in terms of post game replayability. You had White Tree Hollow and Black City. And a Pokemon World Tournament. I mean, come on, that was I feel like that was a really good first experience into battles being the sport and world event that you would see eventually in Sword and Shield. So I agree in Sword and Shield being literally a sport where you go in a jersey and battle. It was amazing. It was a really good experience, and that was one of the positive experiences I drew from Pokemon Sword and Shield during my playthrough. However, I do not agree with Gigantamax being superior to Mega Evolutions, simply because, well, I mean, you know what? It's got its advantages and disadvantages. Its advantages is any Pokemon can technically Dynamax. The base of it is Dynamax, and
Right.
then only certain Pokemon can Gigantamax. So it's similar to how Mega Evolution, only some Pokemon had Mega Evolutions, whereas other ones couldn't. So the fact that anybody can get real big real fast, it's a Jesus, I'm saying too much.
No, don't
It's
worry
more
about it.
universal. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that you said earlier was, and this is something that everyone goes back to, and I'm really confused by it. Battle Frontier. Let me tell you something. There is
Oh my God.
nothing great about Battle Frontier. All you do is use stupid rental Pokemon and battle boring teams. The rewards aren't even there. There's nothing worthwhile. When I think of the best Pokemon in games, I think of Omega Ruby and Sapphire, where you can literally go through Hoopa's wormholes and collect legendaries like never before.
Mm.
However, you did make a very good point that Pokemon World Tournament was it was like the pinnacle of what any trainer could ever want. That's been there since the beginning. I am one of the few people that I know personally. Granted, I know probably thousands and millions of people have done in the world that have actually completed the entire Pokemon World Tournament. I fought every single trainer, beat them all. And it was the only time I've ever been like truly challenged in Pokemon, because you and me actually started battling to a competitive level in those games. It was like for the first time ever, we're like, okay, cool, let's care about our stats.
Mm-hmm.
You know, EV training, IV training, all of that.
Best ones forward, yeah.
So it was really cool to experience that. I personally believe in terms of post game, Black and White 2 are the best games for that. But also Fire Red and Leaf Green, my personal favorite. You know, you got these Sevi Islands, which it totally expanded on the Kanto region like never before. And it's stuff like that that I think stands out more than the Battle Frontier. There's nothing wrong with the Battle Frontier necessarily. It's exactly what it was meant to be. But I don't go to it and go, oh, I'm really glad I did that. What did I get from it? Oh, that's right. Nothing.
That's very true. And I think I agree. Sevi Islands are fantastic as a post game. I honestly kind of forgot about them when I mentioned that Kanto didn't have post game, but I was talking about Red and Blue.
Yeah.
Red, Leaf Green, Sevi Islands. You got Johto Pokemon. You got the secondary storyline with the Hypno in the forest, and it was just super cool, man. And you can get a Larvitar, which is my personal favorite Pokemon. Well, Tyranitar. So yeah, actually those were bitchin'. However, with the Battle Frontier, I do agree it's not for everybody. I personally didn't play it as much as I would like to admit. However, just going to the Battle Frontier and getting the experience of a new location, something that's foreign, because I believe it was only an Emerald, correct? Was it in Ruby and Sapphire as well?
What's that?
Was the Battle Frontier in Ruby and Sapphire, or was it only in
Emerald? The first time the Battle Frontier ever existed was actually an Emerald.
Okay, so playing Ruby and Sapphire on release, and then going to Emerald and seeing that there's a whole new area that was yet to be explored, and rental Pokemon, yeah, they're not the best, but you know, we've dealt with rental Pokemon in the Pokemon Stadium games. You know,
right?
It's not a completely foreign concept, and it gives you a chance to find out new movesets, because I want to go back to how your Charizard's moveset was not very diverse. And neither was my Blastoise, honestly.
What are you saying, bro?
I'm saying you got that hot fire, man. I don't know.
I got that hot fire.
Got a diversify your portfolio for your Winged Overrated Dragon.
Whoa!
So yeah, rental Pokemon give you a chance to see what the Pokemon can do aside from what you would normally, the kit you would normally give it in your team. So that is really cool. Plus the ambiance of it and seeing the different buildings and playing through. So to be like, it may not be for everybody, but what I'm getting at is there was a post game, there was a certain area that came with the game that you got to experience, and I feel like Sword and Shield was lacking foreign areas. I mean, I understand it's based on England, right, or London.
Yeah.
So you know, there's obviously not going to be, that is the island. You know, it's all just one fluid motion. But not having a solid post game, and then having a post game where you had to essentially purchase it now, which is not uncommon practice in the world of video games right now. You know, DLC is prevalent, and you know, it kind of ties into our title of our podcast. It just works. It all started with that damn horse armor, but that's for another episode.
I totally bought it, dude.
I know you did.
Yeah,
you're flexing so hard. I was like, I can't get my mom's credit card.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls is definitely going to be a nice long topic. Yeah. So I think, you know, one of the things that like really stands out to me in terms of complaints people had for Sword and Shield was the animations and the fact that they did reuse, you know, certain animations from Sun and Moon, the 3D models since 6th Gen. And I really understand those arguments, but I wouldn't expect them, their first Switch game, to go balls to the wall, because to me they didn't really have as much time as Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild had 5 years of development. I'm gonna go ahead and say Sword and Shield maybe had 3, if that. And one of the things that I think we can both agree on, and a lot of people listening, is Pokemon's kind of just been lazy. So I thought of a couple features that were added in the previous generations that are gone, and it just makes you wonder. So Heart and Gold and Soul Silver added the ability to have your front party Pokemon, one that's first in the party, no matter what it is, will follow you with its sprite. I remember the first time I saw a Groudon following me, I was like, let's go to Mount Silver, Red. What are you going to do? What's going to happen, boyo? But in the companion games to that generation, 4th gen, Diamond and Pearl, I didn't play Platinum, so I couldn't talk about that very much. They added the effects when you throw out your Pokeball. So when I threw out my Charizard, I literally had blue flames coming out of my Pokeball. And it's just these two features in particular. It's like, why would you get rid of that when that was some of the best innovation I've ever seen? And third one I'm going to throw in there real quick because it's also 4th gen. I guess it was a great generation. The underground exploration was amazing. I wasted so much time on that.
Even being unsuccessful in extracting all the fossils you could, I still spent way too much time in there. I didn't get to take advantage of any of the online features. I didn't play with anybody else. I was just wandering around,
Loser.
picking up fossils. Okay, all right. Anyways, fuck you.
I'm done here.
No, I agree. I agree with the. I'm gonna go in order of how you describe them. But the following Pokemon, I mean, the first taste of that we got was in Pokemon Yellow, which was amazing. You felt just like Ash or Red if you want to stay with the Pokemon Adventures. That was really cool, and then having that revisited in Heart Gold and Soul Silver was amazing. Any Pokemon you wanted, because I do believe in Diamond and Pearl there was a Pleasant Park. You could select certain Pokemon, mainly like Baneri's, Pikachu's, Meryl's, like any of the cute Pokemon to follow you around, and it was our second taste of that. And then Heart Gold and Soul Silver, full taste. I mean, I had a Lugia following me, and he said it gave me a big hug, and I was like, wow, my character is crushed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am so bummed that they took that out because I think that was an amazing feature. We got to see it in Let's Go, and in a sense riding Pokemon like how you would in Sun and Moon, but we can get to that another time. But I feel like having Pokemon...
We could touch on it real quick. I would say that, it'd be quick because I think Let's Go, hands down, nailed it. Like, that was the best feature of that game. What's that? You want to ride on an Arcanine's back? Oh, here you go. You want a Machamp to cradle you? That's weird, but okay, you can do it.
Whatever you're into, man.
You want to ride on a Snorlax's stomach like you're attached to it? Like a piece of gum? You know what? Go ahead.
Wait,
what's that? You want to... Yes, you can.
Oh, God.
What's that? You want to fly on a Charizard? Because he's the best Pokemon ever? Yes, you can.
We need to do videos so you can capture the eye rolls that I do whenever you mention Charizard.
Oh, why? You know what? Let's just get into it. Why do you think he's so overrated?
Well, I want to roll back to Sword and Shield and our complaints with that.
Yes.
I feel like we are jumping topics a little too fast.
Okay. Well, I think Sword and Shield, my complaints with it are honestly like what we have been just going through. It's like you have all these amazing features. You have a console that can definitely bring up the graphical fidelity of the games to something that's never been seen before, even though it's not that impressive. For Pokemon, it is, and I just think those features we have are just incredible. They're game-changing features. There's kids that have never played these games before. Could you imagine all these new trainers being able to see their favorite Pokemon follow them, just like they can see their some of their favorites in the wild area? It's just kind of sad, and I just feel like it's lazy. It's very lazy game developing. You are the highest selling franchise in the world. You somehow found a way to beat Star Wars, Marvel, Disney. God, name it. Doesn't matter. They beat it.
Yeah,
and
number one. And I feel like that plays into the fact that they can be as lazy as they've been. You know, they're already printing out money. We can put out bare minimum product and people will buy it, and that's what happened. You remember I was very much against getting Sword and Shield, and then eventually I got it on release, and it's just the Pokemon hooks are into a lot of generation of people, and I think right now, with our ages, some of the people we went to school with, they have kids who are at the age of playing video games, and if they liked Pokemon, they're going to want to show their kids Pokemon. It's something they can bond over, right? And have a connection to. So, like, they're gonna sell. People on various media platforms or social media platforms, excuse me, they were all ready to boycott the absolute bejesus out of Sword and Shield, and that we all knew it wasn't going to work. It was going to sell.
Yeah.
So
I just think, I don't even know. I lost my train of thought.
shit, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, you're good. It's just when you have such a dedicated fan base, like no other, like people who live and breathe it. I mean, there's people who stream every day, shiny hunting, just they're having chat rooms over it. They're just talking about it. They're playing the randomizers together. You got people creating their own fan-made games that are better than the games that exist.
Oh my god, ROMs and emulators are amazing, and it's such a bummer that Nintendo's so like on a crackdown, understandably so to in a business point of view, but it's like, why aren't these people working for Pokemon?
That's kind of how I see it too, though. It's these randomizers. Like I was watching one of my favorite streamers play a crystal randomizer last night, and I'm just like, how cool would it be if the Pokemon or Game Freak hired these people and said, hey, you know what? We're going to come out with a free update that allows you to create a brand new save that's a legitimate IP owned randomizer. Like, I don't understand why they're so against stuff like that. It would bring the game to new heights, and you can cut off the multiplayer for it if you want. You can say, hey, you still have to play the base game if you want to do ranked matches or do live tournaments. No problem. It makes sense to me. But randomizers bring an extra game mode essentially like no other. I mean, it's just insane. Like I'm watching her play it, and the trainer has a Mewtwo or something, and it's like, okay.
It makes no canon sense whatsoever, but it's just fun. It's just funny. It's a fun mode that a lot of games have a lot of fun random modes. You have like cheat codes and things that make the game enjoyable on a second playthrough. New Game Plus. I mean, it'd be kind of difficult to do a New Game Plus, like, carry over your Pokemon and steamroll the first day gyms. However, a New Game Plus with a randomizer would be a lot of fun, and it's a missed opportunity, 100%. And I want to say Pokemon would be, or Pokemon Company and Nintendo would be afraid of changing the formula, even though they tweak the formula every generation that comes out, whether it's like we mentioned earlier, introducing new mechanics and then taking them away. They're always tweaking the formula ever so slightly, but it's cola, man. It's packaged differently, same formula, just slight tweaks here and there. And I feel like that's why Pokemon doesn't want to do any sort of aftermarket. No, I don't want to say aftermarket, but
like fan-made
DLC
updates.
Ideas, yeah.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate because I just see so much opportunity for the entire community, and I don't see how they couldn't thrive on this as a business aspect. Like, they would gain so much respect like Bethesda does when Bethesda's like, you know what, if you want to make a mod, go for it. We could care less. Have fun. There's unofficial patch updates. If you want to walk around as Master Chief, you can. If you want to have Thomas the Choo Choo Train as a dragon, you can do it. It's just, when you allow that kind of freedom, you're obviously going to have some issues. Like Super Smash Brothers allows you to create your own maps finally, to a degree. I wouldn't say it's like a good map maker, but it's definitely an incredible start with the imagination some people have had. However, there's
something.
Yeah, it's something. You got to start somewhere, and unfortunately, there was a few bad eggs, and there was people who made their own maps that were technically offensive, or they had some verbiage on it that you obviously don't want kids to see. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a scary avenue to go down. I just look at Sword and Shield, and I see a barren wasteland with so much potential. Like the raid battles, people said, "Oh, it's just a borrowed concept from Pokemon Go," and it technically is, but they made it their own in the most amazing way possible. When I play Sword and Shield now, I am literally just doing raids and nothing else.
Or hatching eggs,
which I'm doing right now.
Did you get that shiny score bunny yet?
I don't have a shiny score bunny, and I've hatched God knows how many eggs. I swear, if this little bugger doesn't come out soon, I'm gonna throw my Switch at the wall because my Joy-Con's drifting.
Crikey, this little bugger. Sorry to Australian
Oh,
people.
jeez.
Yeah,
That's one way to offend one audience. I just think moving forward, Pokemon really needs to take a step back and go. No matter what, we're gonna get their money. I'm okay with that. I'm happy to give them my money because even though these games are sad and it could be so much better, I still get my money's worth out of them. So I could sit here and bicker all day to you, but on my save file right now on Sword, I almost have 100 hours. When I purchase a game, I figure 1 hour is $1. And most games these days are $60. Almost all of them are $64 after tax guaranteed, and where we live. If I get past that hour threshold, I feel, besides legitimate critiques for the game, like that's as far as I can go. Like I can't go on Reddit and sit there and complain all day because guess what? I still got my money's worth. They found a way to make sure I got my money's worth. And the expansion pass that's coming out is $30 for 2 expansions. And even though I hate that Isle of Armor is a filler until Crown of Tundra, Crown of Tundra is changing a lot. I mean, it looks incredible with the 2 new Reggies coming out, our beautiful 3 trio birds. I just said the same thing twice. Our trio birds are completely getting revamped with new types, obviously the looks of them are just insane. And it's stuff like that like really gets me excited. We got Galarian Slowpoke, which I think is the best part about Sun and Moon, is that they changed the forms of some of our favorite Pokemon. And even though half of them look terrible, I still appreciate that a lot because to me, it says that they're almost at the point where I want them to be. And I want them to stop making new Pokemon and change the ones that we already have. We're almost at 900 Pokemon. We can cut it out now. Like, we don't need any more. However, as much as I want them to stop making new Pokemon, I really believe Sword and Shield's Pokedex is solid. I love most of the Pokemon. Go ahead, if you got anything. That's on the Sword and Shield topic. I just think that's where I stand with it, is that it's a solid game. It's a 6.5 out of 10. I still don't mind that they cut the Pokedex. I just wish that they didn't lie to us, because there's no way that they didn't have all those Pokemon ready. They just wanted to incentivize their filler expansion 1 and then their big expansion 2, because I'm hoping I'm right when I say this, that it's going to add the rest of the Pokemon. But the fact that they hid it behind that instead of just being up front was really disheartening, because I would have been okay with it. I don't mind.
Yeah, they just straight up said, like, we cut the Pokedex. Just cut the Pokedex. Like, okay, I get that. Because it's like you said, there are 900 Pokemon. Catching them all is not only easier now with all the avenues we have, like we literally have Pokemon Home on our cell phones. If you want to trade something right now, I can just pick up my phone and do it right now. It's great. There are more ways to trade than ever before.
Right.
However, when it comes to catching them all in a certain Pokedex, like, I've got my Shiny Charm pretty quick, faster than I have in any other game, and I like that it was dialed down. As somebody who doesn't get much enjoyment out of free roam games, where I get enjoyment out of free roam games, but I get easily overwhelmed with a large number for a Pokedex. Like, even communicating on the trading subreddits to get my last few entries, it's still something I had to get out of my comfort zone to do and go the extra mile to do. But it's easier now than it ever was. But having that lower number just in the base game, just in vanilla, was like you said, I wish they were upfront about it. Unfortunately, they weren't. They did lie about a lot of aspects of why the Pokedex was cut. Just, they didn't want to make all the models and animations. They wanted to cut it for new models and animations, and then shortly later in a trailer, we saw them use the same double kick they've used since, what, 3rd gen? 4th gen? And honestly, seeing the double kick happen, and I believe it was... What's Scorbunny's evolution?
Cinderace?
No, the mid one. Raboot.
Cockatoo?
What?
I don't know. Go ahead.
Okay. Raboot obviously he's the soccer Pokemon, he kicks, and then he just does a little shuffle, and then 2 feet happen to appear on the enemy Pokemon. It's just when you say that you cut it for improved animations, we see the same ones. That's, I believe, what got most people mad. They're because not everyone's gonna have the same favorite Pokemon. Their Pokemon got cut because of poor animations, and if they were just straight up and up front, obviously it's another good selling point for the DLC. We're gonna get about 200 in Isle of Armor, correct?
Well, that's not official. So that's the thing, is it's not official yet. And if it doesn't happen, then I think a lot of people are going to be upset. But once again, people are going to be upset all they want, dude. But they're still buying these games. It's not going to stop.
I haven't pre-ordered the DLC, but I'm more than likely going to as well. Mainly for not Isle of Armor. Why am I no?
I actually just want the Karate Bear, and that's it. I pre-ordered it. I think like the week it got announced, just so I didn't have to worry about it. I think moving forward, they need to be more honest about it. However, you made some really good points that, like, you really can't defend them. I'm okay with the Pokedex being cut. I really am. I got Charizard. But the animations for the moves not being updated for several generations now is unexcusable. Tail Whip, Double Kick. For some reason, they make Flamethrower worse every generation, and I pay attention to that detail like no other.
Nothing can beat Fire Red, Leaf Green, Flamethrower.
No. And then Gen 4's Dragon Pulse was amazing.
Oh, good lord, yeah.
Obviously, that's the move. That's the game it came out on. It's just those minor, and I hate to say this phrase, quality of life improvements would really help their case. If they change Double Kick to where Cockatoo is literally running. I don't know his name. Hooded Ninja. Raboot. I think he's cooler than Cinderace. But
yeah,
if they just make every animation for every Pokemon, then okay. Like they use Charizard's wing attack animation, which now that I think about it, made no sense. Like if you use Earthquake with him, it's his animation where he throws his tail up, and it looks sick. You can totally get behind that. But there's just ways around it, and they have to figure something out. I don't think they ever will, to be honest with you. But touching on the Sword and Shield era that we're talking about, what is your thoughts on Pokemon Home and having it on the console and also on the phone? Like personally, for me, I understand why people hated it being on 2 separate devices, but I actually like it quite a bit.
I like it too. I mean, you have the option. It's like I said before, when there are so many ways to trade now. You have it on console and you have it on phone, which I haven't loaded mine up in a while. I haven't played Pokemon in a minute, but also check, they have mainly the same features. If anything, the phone has more features because you have the GTS. That's the only way you can access the GTS. Well, everyone. We'll have a Blizzard episode, and everyone has phones, right? You guys have phones, right?
You guys have phones, right? That should be our motto. You guys have phones, right? Oh, God, Blizzard, stupid company.
Yeah. We'll get into that next episode, or a couple episodes from now. We'll get
there. Whenever, because Blizzard way more than I do. I'm just a biased hater, so I'd love to talk about Blizzard.
More like Izzard. But yeah, so everyone has phones. Even the kids who are just now starting with this generation of Sword and Shield, they have those ways to connect and trade, and I think having them on both devices is excellent. However, I'm going to say, with the GTS solely on the phone platform, it kind of dips into the lack of online infrastructure that Nintendo and all of its companies, especially Pokemon, how poor their infrastructure is for online, and it's a huge disappointment. Here we are right now, me and you, Ryan. We're recording ourselves and we're talking cities away, and it's going flawlessly. And I can't even hop into voice chat in Super Smash Bros. And talk shit. And I feel, and then I can't access the GTS from the game like how I would in all games previously. I love just being like, oh, GTS, I'm gonna go check on it in game. There we go, boom. And of course with Pokemon Home, and especially with Pokemon Bank, dial it back to Pokemon Bank, you had the option to do GTS in game, and then I believe there was GTS in Pokemon Bank as well, correct?
No.
There wasn't. Okay, so it was strictly in game, and it was just one app. Your Pokemon Bank was strictly the bank, and your GTS was in game. And I feel like having GTS on strictly the phone, so you can use the network capabilities of your cell phone, but not having it on console is it's a step backwards. They really need to figure out, like you said earlier, the ways to fix the animations. It's not quality of life so much as it is it's strictly cosmetic. Like these gripes are cosmetic. I want my Pokemon to feel alive because they're presented in 3D. They are living, breathing creatures within this world. I want them to have, you have your signature moves for the starters.
You want them to have more depth.
More depth, exactly. Because otherwise, and that's why I haven't really played 3D Pokemon games as much as I have 2D sprites. And even I played the hell out of 5th gen Black and White 2, Black and White 1. You had animations constantly, but it was still 2D sprites. And I can't really play 3D Pokemon games because I feel like it's the world itself, aside from Sword and Shield being kind of like a barren wasteland, there's no personality to the Pokemon or even to the player. The player character still has no reaction emotionally in their face to most anything. I think they did a couple times in Sword and Shield, but I know at Sun and Moon there was literally a wormhole being ripped open right behind some characters, and my character was just smiling the whole time. I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna go catch that fucking thing," which is how I felt. But I felt that way because I felt like there's no weight to the world, and that's a gripe of mine that I have with Sword and Shield and their lack of infrastructure online for GTS, as well as the cosmetics that we spoke about earlier. And
I think the GTS only being on the phone is really stupid. I am okay with it being on the home console and still not added into the game at this point. They would have to change a lot of shit up for that. I mean, it wouldn't just be a simple update. They'd have to come up with netcode for it to be in the game. So it won't happen in this game. I do believe it should be on Pokemon Home on the console, or at the very least, because, once again, you made a very good point. There's no way people playing these games and have internet and have Pokemon Home don't have a phone. They need to update the phone app for you to do GTS, and then also, if you're on the same network, transfer it automatically to your game if you want to, or have that ability to. And then I really believe that'd get rid of a lot of gripes for now. But I think one of the things you said right now is something I've never thought about, and that is how they basically transferred our top-down 2D sprite original classic Pokemon games to the 3D world and the landscape and atmosphere, and they just didn't translate it very well. There's nothing alive. I mean, the trees you look at, there's no breeze. They're not swaying to the wind. Pokemon Heart Gold looked more realistic than Sword and Shield.
Yes, I agree. Pokemon Heart Gold, even when you went into the early routes in Ruby and Sapphire and you saw your reflection and the clouds move in puddles on the ground, and I want to touch back into Black and White, when you go across Sky Arrow Bridge, it's 2D, but it really gave you a scale of how massive this bridge was. And I feel like in 2D, of course you are limited, but they had a better opportunity that they took to make the world give it real scale, give it real depth. And yes, we have 3D animations and models for the Pokemon, but they just feel like lifeless. And you said there's no breeze in the trees. The world has no depth. We get sandstorms. We have the weather system in Sword and Shield, but it's just not to the same degree as we had back in the day. And I want to believe I don't have nostalgia goggles on. I really want to look at this objectively, but I can't help but feel like these games are lacking a lot of life that they just didn't put in. And it's a huge disappointment for me in the newer generations.
Yeah, I'm still holding hope that the 4th gen remake we get next year is going to be a step forward, because technically, even though you made a good point in Hoenn, you were able to, in the Hoenn region, you were able to walk through the water and see a reflection, see the clouds moving, and just those very small details showed the scope of the world compared to Gen 2. But Gen 4 took it a step even further with their dynamic weather system, which sounds weird to use the word dynamic, but they did have a full-fledged seasonal system. And I believe Sword and Shield was like, let's just get this out. Let's give them something for the new gen. Let's give them something for the console. But I think the Diamond and Pearl remakes are truly going to define what the future of console Pokemon games are going to be like. And, they had the windmills in them. They had, like I said, the seasons. They had a lot going on in those games that are basically what you miss. It's what you want. Yeah. I think if you go through the Sandstorm in the wild area on Sword and Shield, I don't even think your character, tries to cover his eyes. I think he or she might put goggles on, but...
I honestly don't think so. I think it's just wide-eyed, yes.
Look at me, guys!
Or we have just absolutely flawless lashes that are invisible, and it's just a Galarian trait that every trainer has.
Well, it's starting to make me realize that a YouTube mini-series that's kind of a joke, it's called Starter Squad. I think I've sent it to you before.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Starter Squad, yeah.
In the first couple episodes, Red is in it, and he's basically a stagnant placeholder. And now I'm starting to think that was an inside joke about how your trainer is the most useless thing ever.
We save the world multiple times. We capture legendary Pokemon, but we are also just stoic,
brain dead, just lifeless bodies.
Yeah. meat bags rolling through, catching other kind of lifeless things. I'm talking about Sword and Shield. Yeah, man. I mean, Sword and Shield. I played through. I mean, I had a better time than I thought I would have with the game. I enjoyed it. Like you said, the raids were an excellent mechanic, even though it was brought over from Pokemon Go. I still feel like it's nice to basically gang up on a big Pokemon with your buddies, and even though the infrastructure is a little
kinky,
a little work. You got to pay extra for that. Oh, you do actually. You have to pay extra in $30. But I am honestly looking forward to the expansion pass. Crown Tundra is going to be great. I'm excited for the retyped legendaries. I can't wait for Charizard 5. It's going to be fantastic.
What is up with you and Charizard, dude? Leave him alone.
We want to dip into that? You think we touched on Sword and Shield as much as we could?
Yeah.
About why Charizard's overrated?
Yeah, I think the expansion pass conversation will come up again once we actually get our hands on it. If you don't get it day one, I will have it day one.
I'll probably get it day one.
We are 100% doing an episode based on Isle of Filler. So,
Isle of
I want to know, why do you believe Charizard is so overrated? I really, I don't get it, because besides...
Are we trying to keep these episodes an hour, or do we get a lot of time?
Oh, shut up.
I'm sorry,
go for it, dude. No, you're good. Good. I gotta hear this, because
okay.
I gotta just go for it. I gotta sit here and not be judgmental.
Oh, so I'm the judgmental one. Anyways, Charizard, I believe, is overrated for many reasons. It's everyone's favorite Pokemon. It is.
Is it
overrated? It's not mine, but most everybody, if you ask them what's your favorite Pokemon, it's going to be Charizard. Take a look at the Google polls. The most popular Pokemon was Charizard.
And the stupid frog with a tongue that goes around its entire body.
Greninja's tight.
He's okay. I just hate the tongue thing. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, anyways, and it's not saying I don't. It's not that I hate Charizard. There are people who legitimately when Charizard name gets brought up, they reel in disgust and they're like, "Oh, guys, Charizard, meh." Fucking I like Charizard. I will put Charizard on my team. He's got a great shiny. He was my second starter when I played Blue on my second run. Did Squirtle first time. Did Charizard the second time. He gets so much love, deservedly so, for a single Pokemon. And obviously we saw it in Sword and Shield. He was the only Gigantamax of the starters. He was the only Gigantamax Kanto starter, and he was the only Kanto starter in the game. And you have, honestly, another gripe I had about Sword and Shield, you had Leon, where everyone just could not shut up about this Charizard. You see the hype for Charizard in real life, and you see the hype for Charizard in Sword and Shield, and it's obnoxious in Sword and Shield, but it's just such a meme to talk about in real life that Charizard is overrated. He's got plenty of merch. He's got plenty of TCG products, tag teams. He's got 2 tag teams. He's the only Pokemon with 2 tag teams. I might be mistaken on that. It's just a lot of Pokemon, or a lot of Pokemon people love Charizard, and I get it to an extent, but I believe there is a little bit of overhype in that. Ryan, what do you feel about the situation?
I think you're wrong.
Okay, let me know.
Listen, let me tell you why. let me know why I'm right. Let me tell you why you're wrong. It starts with one episode in the Pokemon anime. Besides, actually, let me roll that back a second. My personal experience with Charizard is not only was he on the box art of Pokemon Red, I wish I had a camcorder. The very first base set booster pack I bought, I pulled a holo Charizard. So for me personally, and him being Ash's best Pokemon, it just holds so much sentimental value to me, because when Ash needed him to be that strong, powerful Pokemon to help him get to victory, not that his others weren't good, Charizard was there to get it done. When he does Seismic Toss on Magmar to say, hey, you know what? Fuck you. It's just like the coolest thing. And then you got Charcific Valley and Orange League, which
that was a great episode.
It just blew my mind away, because they took Ash's Charizard and said, yeah, he kind of sucks. And he sat in a lake for, I think, a whole episode before Charizard stayed behind and got stronger for his trainer. There's just a level of respect between the two, the trainer and Pokemon, that like it just meant so much to me as a kid. And when you have a pet in real life, it's almost the same type of respect, where your dog, your cat, whatever the animal may be, if it loves you, of course, it also respects you to do the right thing. And Charizard was always like just there for Ash, because Ash just had a good heart and was stupid. And he was terrible.
He was there for him and saved him from the rain.
Exactly.
Abandoned.
And it's just that type of sentiment is better than anything I could have ever imagined as a kid growing up. And let's be honest, his TCG cards are also some of the best looking cards I've ever seen in my life. And after almost 900 Pokemon, I still think his design is perfect. Honestly, Charmeleon is the second best looking Pokemon in my mind. And it's just, I understand if he's overhyped, because he got 2 Mega Evolutions. That I think was a little bit overboard, personally. Charizard Wise Life. Fuck Charizard X.
Okay, guy. He finally got his dragon typing. You're gonna diss the boy like that?
Yeah.
He finally gets his dragon typing.
I get a giant regular looking Charizard with Drought. Yes, I'll take that all day. I had over 300 wins on X and Y. On life. I understand the overhype, but for me personally, it's just like this Pokemon defines why I love the games. If it wasn't for Charizard, I honestly probably wouldn't care about Pokemon. Because of the way he was portrayed in the shows, the games, and most media, it just really, I don't know, it just captured my heart, literally. Like, I love the Pokemon, and to be able to have him as a partner Pokemon at the beginning, at mostly every game, or after you start it, you can trade it, it just kind of means a lot. However, the champion of a brand new generation having Charizard was maybe a little much. I think what they should have done is given him Dragapult and given Dragapult G-Max. Actually, no, I'm sorry, not give him a G-Max, but make Dragapult, the pseudo-legendary, really like the icon for, what's his name?
For Leon, the champion.
Leon, yeah.
And we've seen like the pseudo legendaries be the iconic Pokemon of
like Gen
the
4.
champion of the region. You got Dragonite, you've got
Garchomp,
Garchomp,
Salamence with
Salamence.
Drake.
What was Johto?
Tyranitar?
Who had Tyranitar in the Elite Four?
No one does.
Oh.
They kept Godzilla at Mount Silver.
Oh shit, that's right. I was so bummed about that.
I understand, real quick, why he's overrated or overhyped, and it's because for me, Bonsly has a unspeakable, like, undying love. Like, I absolutely cherish that Pokemon. He's probably got less than 5 cards ever made. Like, no one even cares about him. I care about that little piece of shit. When I saw him in XD Gale of Darkness, which was the first time a Gen 4 Pokemon was ever revealed with Munchlax and Bonsly, I lost my shit. So I can kind of understand, though, what it's like to love a certain Pokemon and you almost never see it in any of the media.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even important in the games. And I'm not saying that because he's a baby Pokemon. I'm just saying in general. On a grand scale, it's like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. Charizard, I know Pikachu is the mascot, but I think this franchise without Charizard, this is going to be bold. Without Charizard, wouldn't be where it's at today. Like, he literally carries the franchise on his shoulders. There's a $50,000 card for him. Like, no other Pokemon comes close to that. And granted, Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3 are some of the best designs I've ever seen in any type of medium when it comes to character design. He still found a way to get us to where we're at today. I mean, they literally made Gen 3 thinking that was it. Like, they weren't going to continue this franchise. They didn't think they can do it again. Like, it was over after Gen 2.
That's insane to think about, honestly. And here we are, 5 generations later.
It trips me out, yeah.
It's insane to think about, yeah. And you know what, man? I agree with you on a lot of points. It ties into your... I don't want to say nostalgia goggles. I don't want to say anything of a negative connotation with your experiences with the Pokemon franchise and why Charizard is your favorite, but a lot of that has to deal with your first experiences with the games, with the series, with the show. You pulled literally one of the most rare cards you can in today's time as a kid, and you were just stoked about it. So it's understandable why your love for Charizard is so strong, because it goes to that's how you started out. And Pokemon means a lot to us because it's been there for us for a long time, longer than we care to remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I see why you love Charizard. But I think what got me super just kind of over the hype and everything was Leon and his Charizard. You made a really good point. It should have been the pseudo legendary, which was Dragapult, being the champion's main Pokemon. That would have been, honestly, tradition. It would have been great. But Pokemon Company saw the hype that Charizard has. It knows that it is literally everyone's favorite and essentially the mascot aside from Pikachu. You have tag teams that Jesus. And that's our co-host Ruby.
Yeah.
We might have to do a little commercial break here in a minute, but you have tag teams, which in fact when we come back we can talk about the TCG, which is another huge part of the fandom for us. You have the 2 mascots of Pokemon, Charizard and Pikachu, paired up with probably some of the most underrated legendaries of the series, which is Zekrom and Reshiram, respectively. It's... Oh, God. But you're right. The Charizard is as much a mascot... I swear to God. Okay. Charizard's just as much as a mascot as Pikachu, and I respect your love for Charizard, because I've known you for so long, and you've loved Charizard for so long, but I swear to God, everyone in Galar can shut the fuck up about Leon and his fucking Charizard. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to pause the recording, Ryan.
Well, I think we can end it there. I think this is... Yeah, because I think the TCG, our personal favorite games and why they're our personal favorites, and just so many other topics about Pokemon, and God knows where else we go with this.
We can do a whole TCG, like, as a medium episode, which I'm more than down for, obviously, because I like different types of TCGs, but we can go on for an extremely long time about Pokemon TCG.
Yeah, so we'll leave it at that. I think this was a great starting point. Just go ahead and close us out.
All right, Ryan. Well, I'm going to stop the recording right now. Well, actually, how about we do a little outro? If you guys did listen to this podcast, we appreciate it. Honestly, we had this idea to start this podcast just for fun, and if we can get people to listen and listen to our ideas on different subjects that we're going to bring up, and if we can start an online community and interact with anybody who may listen, we're all for it. If only one person listens to this, cool. If multiple do, dozens, there's dozens of us. That'd be great. Honestly, I just enjoy exploring this medium with my best friend, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed listening.
Just two best friends who wanted to share their thoughts to a bigger, grand scope, and see who else wants to chime in. And it's just something we've always done, and it's always fun to do because we have differing opinions so much when it comes to Pokemon. It's actually really cool to hear what you have to say about it. So hopefully anybody that tunes into this enjoyed this. Stay tuned for a hell of a lot more. This is the It Just Works podcast. I'm your co-host, Ryan.
And I'm your co-host, Brandon.
Take it easy, guys.